Hello, I am Etienne Farvaque, Professor of Economics at the University of Lille, and really glad to welcome you to this presentation.
My name is Piotr Stanek. I'm Associate Professor at the Cracow University of Economics, and together we'll talk to you about our scientific project on central banks. The project is on determinants of central banks' preferences, communication, and reactivity, and was funded by the Polish Science Agency, which is named National Science Center Poland.
So it brings a team which is composed half of researchers from Poland and half of researchers from other countries from the European Union. So on the European side, let's say, out of Poland, outside of myself, there is Frank Malan from the Central Statistics Office of Ireland and Davide Romelli from Trinity College Dublin.
And on the Polish side, apart from myself, we also have Professor Marek Dąbrowski and Dr. Jakub Janus. Okay, so our scientific project will also be presented during a workshop organized with help and hosted by the Polish Academy of Sciences Scientific Center in Paris.
And this workshop will focus on the new trend in the economics of central banking, and it will be hosted on 2 days in October, the 18th and 19th more precisely. And the aim of this presentation is basically to present you what the project is about and what will happen during this workshop.
Right, so maybe we should start by saying what is a central bank and why we are interested in central banks' decision making and policies. So the key task of the central bank is conducting monetary policy, which notably means setting interest rates, and this is the most important way in which the activity of the central bank can affect us as the members of the general public, because all of the interests we pay on mortgage loans or we gain on our remunerated deposits in banks depend in fact on the interest rates set by the central bank.
Central banks have also many other tasks. Of course, they tend to issue currencies, banknotes, and coins that you may have in your wallets. They also conduct a foreign exchange operation. They are the bank of banks. They are sometimes the bank of the government, and they often manage the payment system. But all those tasks are not the focus of our research project, which covers essentially 3 dimensions.
These 3 dimensions we cover are precisely leading of monetary policy, notably setting interest rates, but at the margin also some other instruments. And what is also very, very important is the way how central banks communicate with financial markets and general public as well. So these three top areas are in the heart of our project.
Yeah. And it's even more important to communicate with the public in a period after the global financial crisis and after the COVID pandemic that those interest rates have been driven to a very low level, and that monetary policy has had to use other tools, and communicating them to the public is even more important than probably in the past.
And what we could also say is to try to put this central bank's decision making and communication into a context of some kind of conceptual framework. So on the one hand, we might say that the central bank's decision-making body, which is a monetary policy committee in most of the cases, receives some information, processes that via this decision-making process and reaches some kind of an outcome. And then we focus on a number of determinants of how this decision-making process inside the committee works. We divided them into external and internal factors.
So the general idea is, as you can see, decision making inside the central bank may look like a black box. And our intention, our motivation is to put some light into the black box and to go deeper inside the understanding of what central banks are doing and why and how they are doing it. And we have divided our research project in 3 parts. And the first part is related to the impact of recessions, epidemics, and all these events, when they have been known in the past by central bankers, how do they impact on the way that they take monetary policy decisions in front of present days such type of events?
Yes, and the second part of the project is focused on the political dimension of this black box, because the central banks' presidents are nominated in a political process in most of the countries, and some of them can be also reappointed. And then the approach of the moment once they can be reappointed potentially changes their reactivity. And this is indeed what we find inside our project, that in many cases central bankers try to indeed show that they are doing their best by adjusting interest rates shortly before this reappointment moment. Also, the third part of the project is focused on communication and interactions with some other actors, and here we notably find that central banks in their interest rate setting are affected by decisions made by the most important central banks in the world, like the Federal Reserve of the United States. And then we also show that sometimes what economists call uncovered interest rate parity does not necessarily hold, and this is what central banks have to take into account.
You may have heard over the last year, for example, some anecdote concerning the relations between governments, presidents, and their central banker in whether in the US, in Turkey, or in India, which there have been prominent, let's say, disputes between the 2 parts of the government on one side and the central bank on the other. And our project intends to see if beyond the anecdotes, there are general patterns that emerge in terms of relations between the central bankers, the government, and the general public.
So already until now, our project resulted in a number of publications, or at least working papers. We will not describe all of them. You can see the list on the chat, but obviously there is still some ongoing research which we will confront and discuss again with a number of other experts, including experts from the Bank of France and other leading universities in Europe during our workshop, which we announced in the beginning of this presentation.
And this promises to be a very exciting scientific event. And of course, if you would like to attend, please do not hesitate to contact us. And we hope that we will be able to communicate several interesting results in the future, and that we will really bring new information on what are the new trends in the economics of central bankers. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your attention.